Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Sempre Milan bonus podcast on the Substat. This week, we are going to be doing a post-mortem on the failings of the Milan Futuro project in its first year as they suffered relegation to the fourth tier. It's not Happy Friday, it's Happy Thursday, but you're on mute, by the way.
You're not, I hear you. So that was
There
very
we go. Good little technical difficulty to start. How's things, mate?
I mean, they're things, right? So we'll see. I got a new headset. We'll see if it's to Isaac's likings. I don't know. It's been a constant battle behind the scenes to those of you who
Yeah.
don't know. So we're both very stubborn. I'm stubborn in the fact that I can't hear anything and I don't care. And Isaac's stubborn in the fact that he is an audiophile and probably autistic. So that's what's causing the friction. But I now have this new headset, and we'll see
Yeah.
if it meets the specifications.
In fairness, your old headset worked, right? Up until the point of A, it would randomly disconnect itself from the StreamYard, so then you'd be like coming through your computer microphone. And B, sometimes when it moved off to the side, it would do like a crackly thing. So I
Yeah.
think it made sense to upgrade, definitely. But then the first one came and it was shit because of the connectors. So then we've had to get another one sent out. So
Yeah.
I hope for all our sakes and for Sempre Milan Harmony's sake that this works and people like it and we can just move on. It's not, I don't think it's going to be quite the quality of this podcast mic thing that I've got, which is specifically for what we're about to do. But nonetheless, we shall proceed.
And we should mention that I had one of those, but I actually got one out of the box defective and then failed to return it in time. And I don't remember the reasoning behind that, but I just never sent it back. So that's what happened.
Yeah, I can't remember what it was exactly, but it was defective, and yeah, it went past the warranty period, so just had to kind of eat that one, unfortunately. Yeah. Anyway, as I said in the intro, we're going to be talking about the Futuro today. I guess it's like a portion of the pie, if you like, of what has been a collective failure in 2024-25. But I think a lot of people, understandably, because it's stressful enough and exhausting enough keeping up with what's going on with the first team, and it's not been a good season, kind of stopped paying attention to the Futuro until they found out we were in a relegation playoff, which happened over the weekend. Well, over the last 2 weekends. The first leg against Spal, which we won. Remember Spal when they were in Serie A, I think 5-6 years ago. They've dropped down quite a bit since then. But yeah, we beaten Spal twice in the league. And then we beat them in the first leg at home. And it's like, oh, they're going to get out of jail here, in what has been a disastrous first season. And then they lost the second leg 2-0. So they have been relegated to Serie D. And for all of the rumours that there are about, the reason that we got our spot in the first place was because not enough teams successfully registered for last season and thus the place opened up for us to jump in. But the idea of us sort of having a similar thing happen this time where fourth in line, I think it is, for a spot in terms of getting back into Serie C, and I honestly don't want us to. I think you should, we've been relegated because we're shit, and we should accept that, and you should live with the consequences of it. So in order for us to pick this apart, we need to rewind to last summer, or the months leading up to last summer, when the idea of launching this project first came about. It's something that the club spoke about openly, about their desire to do it, but it was always whether that spot was going to become available in Serie C for us to put a team in there. And then when that happened, we were able to register and things like that. The wheels get into motion, and we start doing some pretty questionable things right off the bat. So my own personal opinion, feel free to chime in here, is that Ignacio Abate was the obvious head coach for this project. He'd done very well with the Primavera group, which would largely make up the squad of the Futuro, just getting promoted up, the ones who are 18, 19, what have you. He got to the UEFA Youth League, so the Youth Champions League semi-final the year prior, and the final last season. And definitely an up-and-coming coach, and that felt like the next step in his coaching career. If you might have jumped to a Serie C or maybe even a Serie B team, well, here's your chance. You can stay with the club that you love, and you can become the head coach of a team in Serie C. That didn't happen.
It should have, but
Hmm.
there was issues about, was it Zlatan's kid getting playtime?
Yeah. Yeah, he didn't like that he wasn't playing Maximilian Ibrahimovic as much as he'd have liked. Now that's the unconfirmed story, but it
Hmm.
would not surprise me if that were the case. Also, Abate had an expiring deal, so as you tick into those final few months, you're thinking surely we're going to do something to keep him around. It didn't happen. He departs the club and he goes to Ternana in the end, and Ternana were fighting for promotion, and then he left due to some disagreements with their ownership too. So is it possible that Abate and Ibra were two, equally stubborn characters who bumped heads? Yes, I think that is possible.
Yeah.
And Ibra, who is, say unfortunately, he seems immovable in his role at the moment. If he is, he's launching this project, it has to be with people he gets on with and
Right.
has full trust in, and so that yeah, but I just think, you're grown adults, you can work it out. And also, what does it matter? Because Max Ibrahimovic has stayed largely with the Primavera, right?
Hmm.
So you've got a coach who's not playing him as much as you'd like. You can move the coach to a team that your son's not on, the Futuro, because he's clearly a good coach and you can keep him in the organization and then someone else comes and coaches your kid for the Primavera. Don't get it. But anyway, Daniele
Yeah, it's
Bonore.
weird, and the whole nepotism of wanting your son to play, like, what, as a director, advisor, whatever the hell you are, like, of course you want the best for your kid. You want them to get the most in their career, whether it's sports or otherwise, but it's not your position as dad to go demand that. It's
Mm,
not like his kid's a 14, 12-year-old, he's playing Primavera, which is U19. I don't know how old Maxi is, but he's obviously on the closer end of 19 than he is,
he's
12,
18.
13. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, he's an adult. So Zlatan, fuck off. Let him do his thing,
Yeah.
and he's going to have to grow in that environment without training wheels, just like Zlatan did. That's what made Zlatan such a good player, was the world was against him, and he pulled himself up by his bootstraps, as they like to say. And
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
if
Yeah.
you're firing coaches because your son's not getting game time, you're not going to get a good
Yeah.
coach, because a good coach is going to play the right players. And if that's not your son, then you're just going to have to accept it. And
Mm.
I don't know
And
anything about the quality of Zlatan's son. I have no idea. I don't watch him,
well,
but
yeah, I will chip in at this point and say that Max Ibrahimovic has become a regular starter for the Primavera this season, and he has, I believe, 10 goals. It might, it's definitely 7 in the league, but there's some discrepancy between what the youth league qualifies as and stuff like that. But he's 7 goals playing at 7 goals in 20 league games this season, playing as a left winger. So he's doing all right. He's doing okay. He's not like Shaka Traore numbers where it's clear that he's way too good for the level and stuff. But I guess Ibra will point at that and say, look, I was right. But he was never going to be anywhere near the Futuro level for this season. So I just think that would have been such an easy way to solve it. You give Abate a new 2-year deal. You give him the opportunity to coach us at a senior level because it's in Serie C with a group that he knows so well. He would have brought through that. That's the biggest thing for me, is that you look at that core of players. I'm talking about Kamada, Diego Sia, Filippo Scotti, Quensa, who ended up leaving, Matteo Liberali, Kevin Zaroli, Darius Stalmack, Davide Bartizaghi, Kubis, Toriana, in fact, all the goalkeepers, Noah Rivera as well, Bakune. Like, he has worked with all of those guys for years. He's been promoted up through the system at the same time as them. He went under 18 up to Primavera coach. He's bringing these guys along, and a lot of them have said that they feel like they went from boy to man under Abate. So the easiest thing to do was to promote him to the Futuro job. If he'd have been offered that job, right, and said no because I've got interest from Serie B clubs, or Ternana want me and they're fighting for promotion, you're just fighting for survival, that's a whole other thing. But I feel like he would have stayed around. And I think that was the big first mistake.
I think he would have stayed around, but I also don't think it's necessary. I get what you're saying about him carrying over and whatnot, but you don't get the same coach your entire career. And
No, that's true.
the sooner you recognize that, the sooner you lose that, like, father-like attachment to your youth coach, I think the better. Um, because it's cutthroat in the real professional world. How many coaches have these players had already, right? Since,
Yeah.
I guess, only 3, on the first team. But it's like you can go through a coach very quickly. We saw it last season with Napoli. They're on their 4th manager in 3 years. Actually, fifth if you count caretakers. But it happens, and two of those guys, one won a Scudetto, one might win a Scudetto on Friday, and
Yeah.
that's just the reality of it. So if they're all like, "Oh, I don't want to play if it's not Abate because I like him. He treated me so well." It's like, well, it's time to thicken up and deal with
Mm.
it. This is senior level ball. You're not playing against other 16-year-olds. Now you're playing against adults in Series C. This is 35-year-old men, and they're not there to develop. They're there to win because that's the league
Oh
that they
yeah.
can play in. So they're putting challenges that are going right through you. They're gonna attack. They're playing vicious, and they're now men, whether they want to admit it or not. Whether they're a 16-year-old playing or a 23-year-old playing on the Futuro team, you're now playing against the big boys. These are men, so
Yeah.
act like one. All that said, was a Bonera the right guy to come in? Doesn't seem to be. Like you could get a
Mm.
different coach, but the only point I'm making is that I don't think you have to bring Abate with you. It could have
No.
been helpful, but I don't think it's a necessity.
Yeah, and there's also the thing about could they have become complacent playing under somebody they've known for such a long? Could it have actually been even worse? Whereas Bonera
Mm,
comes in with fresh ideas, and he doesn't have any real head coaching
yeah.
experience, but he did do that game where, in fact, did he do 2 games when Pioli had COVID, and one of them he won at Napoli away, which was
Yeah, I think
kind of
so.
mad. But I mean, that's
Yeah.
obviously Pioli's ideas and stuff. Don't get me wrong, but it's just when you're searching for pictures of Bonera as a coach to use in articles and stuff, and he stood there at Napoli away like this as we're 3-1 up, I'm like, oh yeah, there's an aura about this. It could work really well. And it didn't. It didn't work very well at all, unfortunately. Look, I think we said when we launched this, and we've done bits and bats on the Futuro during the season, obviously, but this is where we can really deep dive into it. I think that this was so obvious. I said it at the time. I thought we'd fight relegation this season because it's such a big jump. When you go from having one of the youngest Primavera teams, in terms of average age of starting 11, you're going to be like by far and away the youngest in Series C. And Series C is made up of some players who are of a similar age and are looking to work their way up. Sometimes you'll get a team like Parma at Series C level who have got a load of talents who are, trying to grow with the club. But a lot of blokes in their 30s, and it's a final payday. Not like a final payday as in they'll toss it off either. Like as in they will want to teach a lesson to these kids.
Yeah,
They'll
and I think these projects, these under 23 projects, are the most negatively viewed teams among the
yeah.
mainstay teams. They're looking at it like, oh, you're here not because this is your level. You're here because you think you're better than that, and you just need a little tune up, a warm up. Like I'll show you what a warm up is, and like the Atalantas, the Juve Next Gen, us, those teams are despised in Series C because of what they stand for, which is taking a spot from an actual team that could be there, that's trying to work their way up the pyramid, and it's helping keep another team at the top of the pyramid longer. So it's not exactly something that these other teams are looking at going, oh, this is so great, we got fresh blood in here that we're going to help these kids grow and develop. No, they want to break these teenagers legs. They want their own trophy. It's their last opportunity at a trophy. They never got to the top level. They want to bring a team up. And yeah, it's the stakes are lower for these Futuro type teams because they can't get to Serie A. They can get
Yeah.
to Serie B, but what happens if their top team gets relegated? Then they're right back in Series C. So like, there's no stakes to it, for them. It's just a wasted team in the league, and that's why these other teams dislike them.
Yeah, and you get a lot of those players as well, the younger ones in Series C who are sort of on an upward trajectory. They ultimately see it as playing against Milan. So if you catch our eye, then could you get the big move? So there's several reasons why, in the eyes of other teams, facing Milan Futuro is not just facing another Series C team for all the
Yeah.
reasons you said. And we saw it in some of the early games, other fans not showing up to stadiums in protest and things like that. It creates a bit of a peculiar environment. I think the players will have been made aware at various points that they're hated.
Mm.
This is something that a lot of the traditional Italian football fans, especially fans of clubs at that level, are against. And I can understand some of the reasoning for that, but also
Yeah.
it does feel like we're being punished for taking advantage of a regulation. It should be aimed higher up than us. We're just doing something to try and benefit us. Then I wanted to talk about as well the summer transfer window that we had